Senior health tips: if you're over 60, every bite of food matters. The vegetables you put on your plateaus, even the ones you've always thought were healthy, can have a powerful impact on your heart. But here's something surprising. 9 common vegetables, the very ones sitting in your kitchen right now, could actually be harming your heart instead of protecting it. As a heart doctor, with more than 30 years of experience treating older adults, I've seen this again and again. Patients walk into my clinic proud of their diet salads every day. Green smoothies, low sugar, no fried foods, yet they still struggle with high blood pressure, shortness of breath, irregular heart rhythms, or worse. Why does this happen? Because after 60, not every vegetable is truly heart-friendly. When eaten the wrong way, in the wrong amount, or combined with certain medications, some vegetables can silently sabotage your health. In this video, I'll walk you through 9 vegetables that may be quietly damaging your heart and what you should eat instead. Stay with me, because the first one may already be in your fridge, and the last one could completely change the way you think about healthy eating. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss future health tips designed for seniors. And if you find this video helpful, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0, so I know how to improve. 1. Spinach. When heart medicine becomes powerless, you're over 60 and taking blood thinners. Maybe it's warfarin. Maybe it's aspirin. What I'm about to share could mean the difference between protection and danger, between staying well and facing a life-threatening event. Spinach, the bright green vegetable long celebrated as a superfood, is not your enemy, but after 60, your body reacts differently to food. What once helped your health may now quietly interfere with it, especially if you're on certain medications. Here's why. Spinach is rich in vitamin K, a nutrient that helps your blood clot. Normally, that sounds beneficial, but if you're on anticoagulants like warfarin, Coumadin, too much vitamin K can reduce the effectiveness of your medication. Warfarin works by thinning your blood, just enough to prevent dangerous clots that could trigger strokes, heart attacks, or sudden death. But when you eat large or inconsistent amounts of spinach, the extra vitamin K can cancel out the protective effect of your medicine. Asterisk. Spinach can interfere with warfarin's effectiveness. The blood becomes too thick, the medication loses its power, and tragically, many seniors have no idea this silent interaction is happening inside their bodies. I'll never forget one of my patients, Mrs. Ellie Thompson, a 72-year-old retired schoolteacher from Wisconsin. She came to my clinic after suffering what's known as a silent TIA mini-stroke. She had lived what most would call a perfect lifestyle. She walked every day. She avoided fried foods. She never touched alcohol. But every morning, she blended a green smoothie packed with raw spinach, believing she was protecting her heart. When I checked her blood work, I discovered her INR levels, the test that shows how long it takes blood to clot, were dangerously low. That meant her blood had become too thick, increasing her risk of forming dangerous clots. She was shocked. No one had ever told her that too much spinach could cancel out the effect of her medication. The hardest part: she had no warning signs, no symptoms, just a simple smoothie that quietly stripped her. medicine of its ability to protect her. This isn't about blaming spinach, it's about awareness. The key is consistency and communication. If you enjoy spinach occasionally, your body can usually adjust. But if you suddenly add it into your daily routine, or stop eating it altogether without telling your doctor, you put yourself at real risk. Here's what I want you to remember. Always inform your doctor before making major changes to your diet, especially when it involves leafy greens. Eat spinach and similar foods in moderation and in consistent amounts, not in large, unpredictable servings. If you love spinach, don't panic. You don't need to cut it out. Just be thoughtful about how you include it in your meals and get your INR checked regularly. Even the healthiest food in the world can become harmful when the balance between your body and your medication is disrupted. Sadly, many seniors don't discover this truth until it's too late. And here's the bigger question. If spinach, a food celebrated for its heart protective benefits, can so easily interfere with life-saving medications, what about vegetables that don't just interfere, but actually add an extra burden to your heart? What if I told you the next one crunchy, tangy, maybe even sitting in your fridge right now contains more sodium than a bag of chips? Stay with me, because what comes next might surprise you. If you're still here and finding these insights valuable, type 1 in the comments to let me know you're with me. 2. Pickled cucumbers, the salty trap, tightening around your heart. Pickles, crunchy, tangy, refreshing. For many seniors, they're a favorite snack or side dish, but asterisk for many older Americans, pickles are a nostalgic comfort served with a deli sandwich. At Sunday lunch, or straight from the jar, they seem harmless, even healthy. After all, they're made from cucumbers, right? A vegetable. But what most seniors don't realize is that those few crunchy slices may be quietly driving up their blood pressure day after day, placing a burden on the heart it can no longer easily carry. I'll never forget Mrs. Evelyn, a kind-hearted 78-year-old widow who came to see me for persistent high blood pressure. She was diligent about her health, no fried foods, daily walks, even meditation. Yet her blood pressure refused to come down. "It doesn't make sense, Doc," she told me. "I've given up chips. I don't eat bacon. I'm doing everything right." It wasn't until I reviewed her food diary that the hidden culprit appeared. A generous helping of pickles with her lunch every single day. Here's what many don't know. Pickled cucumbers are not just cucumbers. They're cucumbers soaked in salty brine, a preservation method that can pack over 1,000 milligrams of sodium into just a few slices. That's more than 2/3 of the daily sodium limit recommended for older adults in one small serving. And sodium, though it sounds harmless, is one of the heart's greatest enemies after 60. When you eat salty foods, your body holds onto extra water to balance the sodium in your blood. That added fluid increases blood volume, forcing your heart to pump harder. Over time, this leads to stiffer arteries, higher blood pressure, and, in many cases, heart failure. The most dangerous part, you often feel nothing while the damage is happening. In Evelyn's case, her daily pickle habit, combined with her aging kidneys, meant her body could no longer flush out sodium the way it used to. Her heart was silently straining every day until one afternoon she suddenly felt chest tightness and shortness of breath just walking to her mailbox. That frightening episode led to a hospital stay and a diagnosis of early-stage congestive heart failure. This isn't just about pickles, it's about awareness. High-sodium foods hide everywhere. Canned vegetables, packaged soups, condiments. And here's the irony. As we age, our taste buds become less sensitive, so we may not even notice how salty our food has become. Meanwhile, many seniors are cutting back on sugar, fats, and red meat, but overlooking sodium, the silent killer. The good news is, you don't need to sacrifice flavor to protect your heart. Use herbs like rosemary, thyme, or basil. Add lemon juice or vinegar for tanginess. These bring zest to your meals without raising blood pressure. Evelyn is doing better now. She swapped her daily pickles for fresh cucumber slices, brightened, with apple cider vinegar and herbs. A small change, but one that gave her heart the relief it desperately needed. It wasn't easy, but Evelyn made the change. Her blood pressure has stabilized, and she told me she feels lighter and more in control of her health than she has in years. Your heart after 60 is still strong, but it's no longer invincible. The foods you ate freely in your 30s and 40s can become dangerous as your body changes. Salt is one of the most underestimated risks for aging hearts, but salt isn't the only hidden danger. Sometimes what threatens the heart is something far spicier, something tied to comfort, culture, and flavor that may be quietly lighting a fuse inside your chest. 3. Red chili peppers, the fiery ingredient, fueling your heart's downfall. We Americans love flavor. For many of us, especially those over 60, a little heat in our food brings back warm memories, backyard barbecues, spicy gumbo in grandma's kitchen, or that family chili recipe passed down for generations. Red chili peppers, whether sprinkled in stew or crushed onto pizza, feel familiar, comforting, and alive. But for the aging heart, that fiery little pepper may be doing more harm than good. Let me tell you about Mr. Raymond, a 72-year-old retired firefighter from Kentucky. He came to my clinic with chest palpitations and occasional dizziness. Raymond was tough, stoic, the kind of man who never called in sick. When I asked about his diet, he laughed. "Doc, I like it hot. Hot sauce on everything. Cayenne in my eggs. Galapagos on my burgers. That's just how I eat." What Raymond didn't know, and what many seniors don't tease, that the same heat he loved was overstimulating his cardiovascular system every single day. Here's why. Red chili peppers contain capsaicin, the compound that gives them their burn. Capsaicin does have some benefits, like mild pain relief and appetite control, but it also activates your sympathetic nervous system, the one that triggers fight or flight. That means a surge of adrenaline, a faster heartbeat, tightened blood vessels, and rising blood pressure. For someone young and healthy, this might barely register. But after 60, when arteries stiffen and the heart grows less flexible, these sudden surges can push an already vulnerable cardiovascular system into dangerous territory. In Raymond's case, his daily diet was stressing his heart not from cholesterol, not from inactivity, but from meals that sent his system into high alert over and over. After a 48-hour heart monitor test, the results were clear. Every time he ate spicy food, his heart rhythm shifted into abnormal patterns. Not enough to cause collapse, but enough to wear his heart down meal after meal. And that's not all. Regular consumption of capsaicin also promotes chronic low-grade inflammation in the blood vessels. Over time, this damages the delicate lining of the arteries, creating the perfect environment for plaque buildup, stiffening, and increased cardiovascular risk. Asterisk, plaque buildup, poor circulation, eventually heart disease, cite sandpaper rubbing against your blood vessels, meal after meal. And here's the part that shocked Raymond the most. The damage wasn't painful, at least not yet. That's what makes it so dangerous. You don't feel a clogged artery. You don't sense inflammation. You feel fine until, suddenly, you're... Not so. We made changes. Raymond didn't have to give up flavor, just the fire. He switched to heart-friendly herbs, like cooked garlic, rosemary, turmeric, and fresh lemon zest. Meals that once set his heart racing were now warming, nourishing, and safe. Within 6 weeks, his palpitations stopped. His blood pressure stabilized. He told me, "Doc, I never thought food could make me feel this calm." For those of you listening, I want to be clear. You don't need to live with bland food, but the way we season our plates at 70 shouldn't look the same as it did at 30. The older we get, the more carefully we must listen to our bodies, our hearts, and yes, even our meals. And if a simple sprinkle of spice can silently push your heart into stress mode, what about a so-called healing food that, when eaten raw, can thin your blood too much, turning natural medicine into hidden danger? Let's look at that next. If you're still here and finding these insights valuable, please comment 1 below to let me know you're with me. Now, let's move on to point number 4. 4. Raw garlic. When nature's medicine turns against you. Heart garlic has long held a sacred place in both kitchens and folk medicine. For generations, it's been praised for lowering cholesterol, reducing blood pressure, and thinning the blood-a natural miracle. Many would say, I can't tell you how many times I've heard patients say, "Doc, I don't need pills. I take garlic every day. It's nature's cure." But here's the truth. Even nature has limits. When taken in the wrong form, in excessive amounts, or alongside the wrong medication, garlic can become more dangerous than healing, especially for the aging heart. Let me introduce you to Mrs. Helen, a 76-year-old widow from Georgia with a lifelong love for home remedies. One winter, she came into my office after experiencing 2 dizzy spells and even fainting while cleaning her kitchen. Her blood pressure was unusually low, and something didn't add up. Her medications were appropriately Cinepril for hypertension, a low-dose aspirin for heart protection. But her blood work told a different story. Her INR levels were slightly elevated, meaning her blood was thinner than it should be. That's when she casually mentioned, "I eat 2 raw garlic cloves every morning. Been doing it for years. My mother swore by it." Here's what's important to understand. Raw garlic contains allicin, a powerful compound that acts as allicin. The active compound in raw garlic works as a natural blood thinner for someone not on medication. This might offer mild cardiovascular benefits, but If you're over 60 and already taking antiplatelet drugs like aspirin, or anticoagulants like warfarin or apixaban, that natural thinning effect can become dangerously exaggerated. The result? A sharply increased risk of internal bleeding nosebleeds, black or tarry stools, extreme fatigue or, in the worst cases, a hemorrhagic stroke, bleeding in the brain. Mrs. Helen's fainting wasn't from overexertion. It was her body sounding the alarm. Her blood pressure was crashing because her blood had become too thin and her heart could no longer maintain proper circulation. She didn't feel pain. She didn't feel sick. Yet, she was standing on the edge of a medical crisis. This is where age changes everything. A younger body might tolerate raw garlic, but as we age, the liver metabolizes compounds more slowly, the kidneys eliminate waste less efficiently, and blood vessels grow more fragile. What strengthened you in your 40s can tip you into imbalance in your 70s. That's not failure, it's biology. And recognizing it isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Garlic is not the enemy. The real danger lies in lack of context and communication. If you enjoy garlic, the safest way is to use it cooked and in moderation. Cooking reduces the potency of allicin while still preserving garlic's antioxidant benefits. And most importantly, always let your doctor know if you use garlic regularly, especially in raw form. It's not about abandoning tradition, it's about adapting it to the stage of life you're in. Helen didn't have to give up garlic, she simply learned how to respect it. Now she roasts it with vegetables, adds it to soups, and avoids eating it raw. Her blood pressure stabilized. The fainting spells disappeared. And she told me I didn't have to give up what I love. I just had to change how I use it. So many seniors trust garlic, and rightfully so. But the key is knowing how it interacts with your body and your medications. Food never works in isolation. It either works with your body or against it. And if something as trusted as garlic can quietly turn against you, what about a food praised for its freshness and vitality, but capable of hiding bacteria your aging heart and immune system may no longer be able to fight? 5. Raw sprouts. The innocent crunch that could break a senior's heart. They look fresh, vibrant, full of life. Raw sprouts, alfalfa, mung bean, radish, clover are often seen as symbols of clean eating. You'll find them sprinkled on salads at trendy cafes, tucked into wraps, or proudly labeled as superfoods in grocery stores. For many health-conscious seniors, tossing a handful of raw sprouts onto a sandwich or salad feels like the perfect way to stay young, fresh, and healthy. But for many health-conscious seniors, adding raw sprouts to a salad or sandwich feels like making a smart, heart-healthy choice. They look so crisp, fresh, and innocent. But what if I told you that this garnish could carry bacteria your aging immune system is no longer equipped to fight bacteria that could quietly enter your bloodstream and attack your heart from the inside? Let me tell you about George. He's a 68-year-old retired firefighter from Minnesota's strong-willed, disciplined, and determined to stay healthy after his bypass surgery 5 years ago. When I first met George, he was doing everything right. No red meat, no sugar, plenty of water, and a salad every single day. Then one afternoon, He was rushed to the ER with a high fever, confusion, and a racing heartbeat. At first, doctors thought it might be a stroke or a heart attack, but it turned out to be something far less expected: infective endocarditis, a dangerous infection of the inner lining of the heart. The culprit: contaminated raw alfalfa sprouts he had eaten just days earlier. Here's the problem with sprouts. They grow in warm, damp environments, the perfect breeding ground for bacteria like E. coli, Salmonella, and Listeria. A younger person's immune system might fight these germs off with nothing more than an upset stomach. But after 60, the immune system naturally weakens. Your body reacts slower, heals slower, and struggles to neutralize dangerous microbes. What might be a mild digestive issue for a 30-year-old can spiral into dehydration, sepsis, or even a heart infection for someone with heart valve damage, a pacemaker, or a history of cardiovascular disease. George had no idea something so small, so seemingly healthy, could pose such a risk. His infection required a month of 4 antibiotics and several days in the cardiac care unit. Later, he told me, "Doc, I thought I was doing everything right. I didn't even know sprouts could make you sick like that." The sad truth is George's story isn't rare. Every year, outbreaks linked to contaminated sprouts surface across the country. Yet they're still sold raw in grocery stores, usually without warning, labels leaving seniors vulnerable. Here's what every older adult should know: raw doesn't always mean healthy. Fresh doesn't always mean safe. If you love sprouts, you don't need to give them up completely, but you do need to cook them. Lightly steaming, sauteing, or tossing them into a stir-fry at the end of cooking kills harmful bacteria while keeping the crunch and nutrition intact. Our generation grew up believing food from the earth couldn't hurt us. But times have changed. So have our bodies. Your heart today needs more than good intentions. It needs protection. And that protection begins with knowing where the hidden dangers are, even in a simple bowl of salad. Because if something as small as a raw sprout can carry life-threatening bacteria, what about a vegetable so common and comforting that almost every pantry in America has it, yet its starch can quietly push blood sugar and triglycerides into the danger zone? Asterisk, most of us grew up believing that if something is fresh, green, and comes from the earth, it must be good for us. And for the most part, that's true. But once you pass 60s, especially if you're taking daily medications, food doesn't act in isolation anymore. The very vegetables that once fueled your health can sometimes clash with the drugs keeping your heart stable. Let me tell you about Mrs. Diane, a 73-year-old retired schoolteacher from Pennsylvania. She had been living with atrial fibrillation and mild heart failure for several years, and overall, she was doing well. She stayed active, took her medications, faithfully beta blockers, ACE inhibitors, and a low-dose blood thinner, and filled her plate with fruits and vegetables. But one afternoon, Diane came into my clinic, weak, dizzy, and confused. Her heart rate was irregular. Her blood pressure had dropped dangerously low. We ran tests, reviewed her labs, and looked closely at her recent diet. That's when the hidden connection became clear. Diane had recently started drinking large amounts of grapefruit juice, and eating broccoli and Brussels sprouts almost every day, thinking she was giving her body an extra health boost. The problem? Those foods were interfering with how her medications were processed. Here's why. Many common heart drugs are metabolized in the liver by enzymes called 450 cypriot pounds. Grapefruit in particular can block these enzymes, while cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and Brussels sprouts can sometimes speed them up. Imagine your medication is designed to enter your system slowly and then be cleared at the right time. When these foods alter that process, the medicine either builds up too much or is cleared too quickly, throwing your heart rhythm and blood pressure off balance. In Diane's case, her medications weren't being broken down properly. Too much stayed in her bloodstream, amplifying their effects. Her heart rate slowed dangerously, her blood pressure dropped, and she nearly fainted. And Diane isn't alone. This kind of interaction happens more often than most seniors realize. Leafy greens like kale, spinach, broccoli, and Brussels sprouts are high in vitamin K in large amounts. They can reduce the effectiveness of blood thinners such as water. Potassium-rich vegetables, potatoes, squash can raise potassium to unsafe levels if you're on ACE inhibitors or potassium-sparing diuretics, putting stress on the heart. Green tea, grapefruit, and certain cruciferous vegetables can alter liver enzymes, changing how medications are absorbed and cleared. It's not that these foods are bad. On the contrary, they're incredibly nutritious. The real danger comes from consistency and quantity. A serving here and there is usually harmless, but daily, large portions, without your doctor knowing, can quietly tip your medication balance from helpful to harmful. The lesson is simple. The healthiest food in the wrong context can become risky, and protecting your heart after 60 isn't just about what you eat. It's about how what you eat works together with the medicine you depend on. Asterisk 7. Raw cabbage, the healthy vegetable that quietly pressures your heart and lungs. Raw cabbage shows up in many senior diets for all the right reasons. It's light, crunchy, low in calories, and easy to toss into a salad or slaw. It carries the image of clean eating, often replacing heavier sides and appearing on health-conscious menus across the country. But for the aging body, especially if you're managing heart or lung issues, raw cabbage may not be the quiet friend you think it is. In fact, it can create a surprising amount of internal pressure, literally pushing against your heart from within. I met Mr. Leonard, a 75-year-old retired truck driver from Missouri, during a routine heart checkup. He had been making healthy changes, cutting out junk food, eating more vegetables, and even preparing fresh cabbage salads with vinegar and olive oil every day. He was proud of his progress. But Leonard had also started noticing new and troubling symptoms: bloating, tightness in his chest after meals, and shortness of breath whenever he lay down. At first, he dismissed it as simple indigestion or just part of getting older. But when I examined him, the picture became clearer. His discomfort wasn't just in his stomach. It was affecting his heart and lungs. The excessive bloating was physically pressing upward on his diaphragm, squeezing his lungs and making it harder for his heart to fully expand between beats. What felt like a digestive nuisance was actually a strain on his cardiopulmonary system. Why does this happen? Raw cabbage, like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, and cauliflower, contains complex fibers and fermentable carbohydrates known as FODMAP. In younger people with strong digestion, these compounds are usually manageable, but in older adults, they often ferment in the gut, producing excess gas and bloating. And when that bloating happens daily, like in Leonard's case, it doesn't just cause discomfort. It creates upward pressure that can worsen shortness of breath, fatigue, and even heart strain. The takeaway isn't that cabbage is bad. Cooked cabbage is much easier to digest, and light steaming or sautéing breaks down many of those fermentable fibers, making it gentler on the gut while still preserving nutrition. But for seniors with sensitive digestion, raw cruciferous vegetables can quietly tip the balance from healthy to harmful. Sometimes it's not what a food does in the bloodstream, it's what it does in the stomach that matters most. And when your heart and lungs already work harder with age, you can't afford that hidden internal pressure. 8. Canned vegetables, the healthy food sneaking salt into your heart. When most people think of canned vegetables, they think of convenience with good intentions. A few cans of green beans, sweet corn, or peas in the pantry feel like a practical, budget-friendly choices, especially for seniors living alone or on a fixed income. After all, it's vegetables. It's not fast food, and it's certainly not processed meat. How could that be bad for you? The truth is, canned vegetables often carry a hidden burden: salt, and for those over 60, managing high blood pressure or protecting a heart already under strain, that salt can quietly sabotage your health. Take Mr. Roy, an 83-year-old widower from rural Georgia. He lived on his own, cooked most of his meals, and genuinely tried to make heart-healthy choices. Years earlier, he had survived a mild heart attack, so he was diligent about avoiding fried foods and limiting red meat. Instead, he leaned heavily on canned vegetables for quick, easy sides. But over time, Roy began noticing swelling in his ankles, more frequent shortness of breath, and higher blood pressure readings at his checkups. He assumed it was just age catching up with him. But when we reviewed his diet, the real culprit came into focus. Nearly every can of vegetables he was eating was packed with sodium, sometimes 2 or 3 times the recommended daily amount if eaten in multiple servings. For someone with a heart condition, that extra sodium isn't harmless. It pulls water into the bloodstream, raises blood pressure, and forces the heart to work harder, all while increasing the risk of fluid buildup in the lungs and legs. In Roy's case, what seemed like a sensible choice, canned vegetables, was quietly undoing the benefits of his otherwise careful diet. The solution wasn't to abandon canned vegetables altogether. Instead, we switched him to low-sodium or no-salt added versions, and I taught him a simple trick: always drain and rinse canned vegetables under running water before cooking or eating them. This step can wash away nearly half of the excess sodium. Within weeks, his blood pressure stabilized, his swelling improved, and his energy returned. The lesson here is simple. Not all vegetables are equal once they've been processed and preserved. For younger people, a salty side dish might not matter, But for older adults, especially with heart conditions, those hidden milligrams of sodium add up fast. So, while the label may say vegetables, what's inside the can may be doing your heart more harm than good. Asterisk. 9. Overdoing heart-healthy vegetables. When too much of a good thing turns harmful from the time we're kids. We're told, eat your vegetables. Spinach, beets, kale, carrots there, held up as nature's medicine. And to a large extent, that's true. Vegetables are loaded with fiber, antioxidants, and vitamins that support a healthy body. But here's what most people don't realize. Especially after 60, even the healthiest vegetables can become a problem when eaten in excess, or when your body can no longer process them the way it once did. Let me give you an example. One of my patients, Mrs. Harris, a 70-year-old retired teacher, prided herself on her superfood smoothies. Every morning, she blended raw spinach, kale, and beets, believing she was fueling her heart with the purest nutrition possible. But over time, she began noticing dizziness, occasional palpitations, and joint discomfort. At first, she assumed it was arthritis or side effects from age. But blood work told another story. Her potassium was edging too high. Her oxalate levels were stressing her kidneys, and the nitrates in her beets were interacting with her blood pressure medication. For younger adults with faster metabolism and more resilient organs, the body can often handle these surpluses. But for seniors, the balance is more fragile. Kidneys filter less efficiently, the liver processes nutrients more slowly, and the heart may already be coping with hypertension or past damage. Overloading the system, even with healthy vegetables, can quietly tip things in the wrong direction. Too much spinach or kale can interfere with blood thinners because of their high vitamin K content. Excessive beets may lower blood pressure too far or worsen kidney stones due to oxalates. Even carrots, rich in beta-carotene, can nudge blood sugar levels higher when eaten in large, concentrated amounts. The solution isn't to stop eating these foods, it's about moderation and variety. Mrs. Harris didn't have to give up her smoothies, but she learned to rotate her ingredients, balance raw with cooked, and scale back portion sizes. Within weeks, her symptoms eased, her lab results improved, and she felt steadier throughout the day. The takeaway is this: vegetables are powerful, but they are not harmless in unlimited amounts. After 60, your body requires not just more vegetables, but the right vegetables in the right amounts, prepared the right way, because sometimes what hurts your heart isn't what you avoid, it's what you overdo in the name of health. Asterisk. 9. Overdoing heart-healthy vegetables when the good guys go to farkale, spinach, beets, sweet potatoes. These are foods we associate with strength, vitality, and longevity. But here's what many people over 60 are never told. Even the healthiest vegetables can become harmful when eaten in excess. As we age, our bodies process nutrients and medications differently. Digestion slows, kidney function becomes less efficient, and the heart is often managing extra strain. What nourished you easily in your 30s or 40s can overwhelm your system in your 70s. Take Mr. Franklin, a 79-year-old retired piano teacher from Pennsylvania. Soft-spoken and disciplined, he took his recovery after a mild heart attack very seriously. He gave up processed foods, began walking daily, and adopted a strict plant-based diet. His meals overflowed with kale, spinach, beets, and sweet potatoes. "Doctor," he told me proudly, "I haven't touched a donut in 6 months. I live on the good stuff now." But a few months later, Franklin returned to my office with troubling symptoms: fatigue, muscle weakness, and lightheadedness. His lab work revealed elevated potassium levels and lower than expected blood pressure. When we reviewed his diet, the culprit became clear. Beets and spinach are rich in oxalates, which in large amounts can strain the kidneys and even contribute to stones. Spinach and kale are high in vitamin K, which can interfere with blood thinners if intake isn't consistent. Sweet potatoes and other starchy roots contain large amounts of potassium, normally beneficial, but in excess, especially when paired with common heart medications like ACE inhibitors or potassium-sparing diuretics, it can become dangerous. Franklin's dedication was admirable, but he was unintentionally overwhelming his system with too much of what he thought was healing him. We adjusted his portions, encouraged him to rotate his vegetables, and added gentler options like zucchini, green beans, and cooked carrots. Within weeks, his potassium levels normalized, his energy returned, and he smiled and said something I'll never forget. "Turns out even the good guys need limits, huh, Doc?" "Exactly, because after 60, your body is like a classic Corvette, can run beautifully, but only with balance, precision, and the right fuel. So if even superfoods can backfire when overdone, what should you eat to truly nourish your heart?" 10. The vegetables that truly support your heart after 60 by the time you reach your 60s. Your heart has already beaten over 2 billion times, working faithfully with every breath and step you've taken. Now, in these golden years, your heart finally needs something from you. Gentle, consistent nourishment that strengthens without overwhelming. Wisdom on your plate, the kind of wisdom that matters most in your 60s and beyond isn't found in health fads or flashy magazine headlines. It comes from understanding how your body's needs have changed in choosing foods that truly serve your heart every single day. By this stage of life, your metabolism naturally slows. Digestion grows more sensitive. The way your body absorbs nutrients and medications shifts. Arteries lose some flexibility. Kidneys filter more slowly. What worked for you at 40 may quietly be working against you now, but that doesn't mean food becomes the enemy. Quite the opposite. Food, when chosen wisely, remains your most powerful medicine. Take Mrs. Ruby, an 83-year-old retired nurse from Georgia. She came to me with borderline high blood pressure and fatigue. She wasn't on any major medications yet, and she wanted to keep it that way. "I want to stay ahead of this thing," she told me. "I've spent my life taking care of others. Now it's time to take care of me." So, together we built meals around vegetables that don't just look healthy, but are actually proven to support an aging heart gently, consistently, without overwhelming the body. Within 3 months, Ruby's energy returned, her blood pressure stabilized, and she felt a deeper peace of mind. Here's what we focused on: steamed broccoli and green beans, low in sodium, high in fiber, and rich in antioxidants that calm arterial inflammation. Lightly cooked, they're easy to digest and don't interfere with common heart medications. Green beans, in particular, provide potassium and magnesium to minerals that regulate blood pressure without the overload risk of other potassium-heavy foods. Cooked carrots, sweet, familiar, and comforting, packed with beta-carotene too, support blood vessel health. Carrots also help satisfy the craving for salty or processed snacks. Roasted or gently boiled, they make a heart-friendly side dish that never feels like diet food. Zucchini with olive oil and herbs, mild, hydrating, and light, yet full of vitamin C and soluble fiber that supports cholesterol control. Unlike spinach or beets, zucchini is low in oxalates, making it a safer choice for seniors mindful of kidney health. Sweet potatoes, in moderation, vibrant with antioxidants like beta-carotene and rich in natural fiber, they provide steady energy without spiking blood sugar. Baked instead of fried, they're a slow-burning fuel that keeps the heart steady. Cooked tomatoes, heat unlocks lycopene, a powerful antioxidant shown to improve blood vessel function and protect against heart strain. A simple tomato sauce or roasted tomatoes can deliver benefits raw slices never could by focusing on these kinds of vegetables. Ruby wasn't just eating healthy, she was feeding her heart exactly what it needed at this stage of life. Asterisk, gentle foods, stronger heart lycopene, the antioxidant found in tomatoes, has been linked to a lower risk of heart disease by supporting the lining of your blood vessels. And when paired with a touch of olive oil, your body absorbs it even better. We also reintroduced kale butt carefully, instead of raw kale, which can interfere with certain medications. Ruby enjoyed it lightly sautéed in small, steady portions. Cooked this way, kale offers vitamins A and C plus fiber, all of which help reduce oxidative stress and support healthy arteries. The common thread between all these vegetables is simple. They are easy to digest, naturally low in sodium, rich in fiber and antioxidants, and most importantly, they work in harmony with the aging body. They don't overwhelm, they don't conflict. They simply nourish, heal, and sustain. Today, Mrs. Ruby still eats this way. At every visit, she smiles and tells me, "I feel light, I feel steady. I feel like my body is working with me again, not against me." That's exactly what I want for you. Because these foods aren't just protecting your heart, they're bringing life back to your plate. They restore a sense of trust between you and your body. And when you eat with awareness, intention, and care, every bite becomes an act of love for yourself, for your future, and for the people who want to see you stay strong. A final reflection now. Did you know which vegetables belong in your kitchen? Let's step back and look at the bigger picture. By the time you reach your 60s, 70s, or 80s, your heart has beaten billions of times without pause, without complaint. Through love, loss, raising families, serving communities, and enduring hardship. It has carried you faithfully, but now your heart is asking for something in return. Your attention as a physician, who has spent decades caring for older adults. I've seen this story repeat. People who've overcome life's greatest struggles are often surprised by something as ordinary as food. Yet after 60, food is no longer just fuel. It becomes part of your treatment, part of your healing, part of your story. Here's the truth. There is no single perfect diet, no one-size-fits-all miracle. What matters most isn't extremes or restrictions, it's the small, consistent choices that honor the body you live in today. You don't need to eat like a monk or give up all enjoyment. You simply need to listen to your body and learn to live in harmony with the changes that come with aging. That's the part no one tells you. Aging changes the way your body responds in ways that are subtle, invisible, and sometimes confusing. The same spinach that made you strong at 40 may challenge your system at 70. But with wisdom and balance, food can still be your most trusted ally. It's never too late to care for your heart. Foods that once seemed harmless can take on new roles as you age. The spinach that once strengthened you may now interfere with blood thinners. The pickles that gave your sandwich a little zest might quietly raise your blood pressure. Even garlic, trusted for generations, can become risky when combined with the wrong medication. But here's the good news. Your body is still listening. It's still healing. It's still capable of change. One of the greatest myths people believe after 60 is that it's too late. I can't tell you how many patients have sat in my office with regret, saying, "I wish I had taken better care of myself earlier." Yet time and again, I've seen those same people, when they start making simple changes, drinking more water, using less salt, practicing awareness instead of guesswork, experience real transformation. Their blood pressure improves. Their energy returns. They sleep more deeply. Their minds feel clearer. It's never too late. Not at 60, not at 75, not even at 90. But it does require a shift in perspective. Stop thinking of nutrition as punishment or restriction. Instead, see it as a daily act of love toward the body that has carried you faithfully for decades. This journey isn't about perfection, it's about participation. You don't need to overhaul everything at once. Simply start with one small question at each meal. Is this feeding my heart or working against it? And if you don't know the answer, that's okay. That's what your doctors, caregivers, and community are here for. You are not alone. In fact, your wisdom is your greatest strength. Unlike younger people who still believe they're invincible, you already understand life's fragility. You've lost people you love. You've seen the cost of ignoring the body's signals, and you've learned sometimes the hard way that health can never be taken for granted. Now, in this chapter of life, you get to choose differently. Not out of fear, but out of respect for your body, your time, and the life you still want to live. Your heart still has time. Time to get stronger. Time to heal. Time to keep showing up for your grandchildren, your partner, your community, and for yourself. And this isn't just about avoiding a heart attack. It's about gaining more energy, needing fewer medications, living with less pain. It's about walking to the mailbox without getting winded. It's about playing cards with friends and feeling sharp. It's about sitting down to a meal and enjoying it fully without fear. That's the power of small choices, made consistently and with awareness. So, I'll leave you with this. Your next heartbeat is a gift. So is your next meal. So is your next chance to say, I choose to take care of myself today. Not for perfection, not for appearance, but for the sacred responsibility of honoring the years you still have left to live. Let's start there, one wise bite at a time. If this message spoke to you, take a moment to reflect. Share one thing you've learned and plan to apply in your own life. Let's encourage each other on this journey of health and wisdom. Thank you for being here. Here's to living fully, courageously, and on your own terms.